Hi, everybody. My name's Trish Farrelly. I'm the Manager of Registration and Competence Assurance at the Pharmacy Council, and I'm here to just give you a really brief update about MyRecert, which we've creatively entitled Trish's Tips. Many of you will know that I'm a pharmacist like you, so I've had my own experience of using MyRecert, and I've also learnt quite a bit from the last year through some evaluations that we've done. So we just thought it might be helpful to bring out some key points that might help you meet your requirements for this year. The first thing I wanted to say really is well done. It's always a challenge moving onto a new system. It was certainly, in terms of timing, bringing in a new system in the middle of COVID epidemic was probably more challenging than we would have wanted. But you guys responded wonderfully, and we were really delighted to just see both the quantity and the quality of the work that you had done. And certainly in this newsletter, there's more information on that and the evaluation that we've done. So if you're interested, please read that. But absolutely impressed with the efforts that everyone's put in. And the first year is probably always the hardest for anything new. So hopefully this year it'll all seem a lot more familiar. One of the main things that came through to us when we looked at our evaluations was that pharmacists don't yet appear to appreciate that MyRecert is a high trust model. It's in your hands. We're not prescribing what you do, how you do it, when you do it. For example, we may have provided templates as part of the guidance, but if you choose to record your evidence differently, if you choose to make an audio recording as part of your evidence rather than using one of the templates, that's entirely up to you. I'm not looking for perfection. What I'm looking for is a genuine effort that meets your requirements and fulfills our requirements. So don't overthink it. You are in the driving seat, and it is up to you to decide what you learn, how you learn, when you learn. But most importantly, choose learning that's relevant to your role. There's not really much point in engaging in learning that isn't going to improve your practice or make you a better pharmacist. So if everything you do is relevant to your role, it will feel less burdensome. The next thing I wanted to clarify is similar to the point around high trust, and that's about the amount of learning that we expect you to record. The reason that we set a recertification or CPD program for pharmacists is that we're obliged to under the legislation. But what we've done is we've sort of set a series of requirements as part of a framework which asks pharmacists to be involved in a number of different types of learning activities. And as far as council is concerned, if you're able to provide some evidence that you have been involved in those different types of activities, then we're satisfied that you have met our requirements. So we absolutely recognise that what we ask you to provide is only a snapshot of all the learning you have done. I suspect that particularly with COVID, pharmacists have done more learning in the last couple of years than some of them may have done in many years. We know you've done the learning. For our purposes, what we require is you to provide a piece of evidence that meets each of the requirements that are set out in the framework. Nothing more, nothing less. So it's not about volume. Again, it's about quality and relevance. The next point that I really wanted to talk about is one of the learning activities that you're asked to undertake is a critical reflection. I certainly know from my own experience and also based on the evaluation report that this is not an area that pharmacists find easy. You know, it's very easy, I think, to reflect on something you've done well. And I think we all would agree that it's nice to pat yourself on the back. But really the purpose of critical reflection is not to reflect on something you've done well, but rather, in my view, to reflect on something that you could have done a hell of a lot better and learn from that. And certainly that's the approach that I took last year, and that's the approach I'm going to try and take this year when I do my critical reflection. Critical reflection is supposed to be uncomfortable. It's supposed to make you feel slightly challenged, but I think, you know, it's absolutely the way we should approach things. I think I have heard from some pharmacists that they wouldn't feel comfortable reflecting on an error that they had made because for some reason they think that council would use that to, I don't know, look at their practice. That is absolutely not the case. And the best thing any of us can do when we get something wrong is to reflect on how we get it right. So I really want to encourage you to be brave, look in the mirror and think about maybe something that's happened in your practice that in retrospect you might have done differently if only you'd known, and going forward that you will do differently and it will make you a better pharmacist. That's my advice. One of the other things that people didn't seem to be aware of is that the activities that we set for you, you can often use a learning activity for more than one of those. For example, in my practice last year, our peer group, one of the things that we discussed and focused on was related to cultural safety. So at the end, we're able to tick two boxes. We'd had our peer group meeting, but also we had undertaken an exercise that was intended to improve our cultural safety. So I'm not giving you carte blanche to put one activity down and say it meets all the requirements, because I suspect that would be pushing it too far. But I do want you to think, where else does this apply? And, you might find that eases your burden somewhat. The other point, I guess, that came through in our evaluation was that while most people had undertaken an activity to improve cultural safety, it often was a more surface activity. Again, like critical reflection, I expect that if we really want to benefit, or we want our patients to benefit from the actions that we take to improve cultural safety, we need to go deep. We need to not just skim the surface, and we need to really take a more reflective approach to that part of the requirements as well. Cultural safety is broader than ethnicity, and there are a whole lot of areas in your practice where I suspect that you would find opportunities to improve. We've also put some additional resources up on our website. For example, we have a number of resources that relate to the LGBTQI plus community. And for some of you, that might be something that you want to look at as part of your actions to improve your cultural safety. The other thing that's been really exciting to hear is the value of the peer groups. And now we all know that, working in isolation is not a good thing. And one of the reasons why Council asked pharmacists to be part of a peer group was that Council believed that would encourage, communities of learning, if you want to call it that. What we heard in our feedback from some of our pharmacists who took part in our focus group was that those peer groups had moved beyond being something that you had to do to tick a box, a compulsory activity, and had actually become really enjoyable and also supportive communities. And some of our pharmacists are saying that they've got, for example, now got WhatsApp groups as part of their peer group. And if they have a practice question, they will flick it out to the members of their peer group. So to me, that's an absolutely outstanding example of what we were trying to achieve by putting in the requirement to belong to a peer group. So I'd encourage you to, again, think about how you can get the most out of that activity and how you can use it to support your practice. A little word about deadlines. If you are anything like me, you may leave documenting your CPD a little later than desirable. I always intend to get it done early, but it never seems to quite happen. And I guess most of us find ourselves in the same boat. I would say, though, that this system is designed for you to try and document as you go. Don't leave everything till the last minute if you can avoid it. And if you can get ahead of the game, it'll make March a lot easier. If you've still got questions after reading the guidance material, talking to your peers or talking to your verifier, support is available. The easiest way to contact us is when you're in your MyRecert portfolio, simply click on the Contact Us link, and that will send a message straight through to our dedicated MyRecert inbox, where the lovely Jenny Lee will do her best to answer your questions. Failing that, you can call us. If you call the main Pharmacy Council number 04495 0330 and select the MyRecert option, we'll do our best to answer your questions. Okay, that's all from me. Hopefully you'll read the rest of the newsletter. But again, I just want to reiterate my thanks to you for the efforts you put in last year, and basically to remind you that this is in your hands. You get to decide. But whatever learning you do, make it valuable. Thank you.